On June 9, 2024, a technical event occurred in the halls of the U.S. Treasury Department with zero media fanfare. The security and financial agreement signed in 1974 between the United States and Saudi Arabia, known as the Joint Commission on Economic Cooperation, officially expired. This date was not just an anniversary, it was the expiration date for the very architecture that supported the global hegemony of the US dollar for half a century. To understand the depth of this fracture, one must look at the 1974 data. At that time, the US was reeling from the 1971 Nixon shock, where the dollar was severed from gold. The solution designed by William Simon was brilliant in its cold logic. Convince the world's largest oil producer to sell its energy exclusively in dollars, in exchange for security guarantees and the recycling of those dollars into US Treasury bonds. This cycle created an artificial global demand for the dollar. For Japan or Germany to buy oil, they first had to buy dollars. By December 2024, Treasury International Capital (TIC) data revealed that major central bank holdings of US Treasuries began shrinking at an unprecedented rate. China, which held over $1.3 trillion in 2013, slashed its holdings to below $750 billion in late 2024. This is not just selling, it is strategic liquidation. The technical term for what is happening now is petrodollar recycling atrophy. When Saudi Arabia ceases its exclusive commitment to the dollar, the surplus cash from oil sales no longer automatically finds its way back to US Treasuries. In 2025, reports from the Saudi Central Bank, SEMA, showed a sharp increase in non-dollar denominated assets, including gold and direct investments in Asian infrastructure. Here we observe a data collision. While Western media reports claim financial stability, we find that the risk premium in debt markets is behaving abnormally. In 2025, the cost of servicing U.S. national debt hit $1.1 trillion annually. This figure means the U.S. now spends more on debt interest than on its entire military budget. When global demand for bonds drops, the Federal Reserve is forced to step in as the buyer of last resort. This is technically called debt monetization. Simply put, America prints money to buy its own debt. This process is the primary engine of the structural inflation we see today. The numbers don't lie. Since 2020, 40% of the total dollar money supply in American history has been printed. Let's move to the hidden engine of the financial system, the repo market, repurchase agreements. This market is where major financial institutions borrow trillions of dollars daily, collateralized by treasury bonds. The system works effectively as long as bonds are considered good as gold. However, in 2025, a phenomenon called fails to deliver began to emerge. Financial institutions became hesitant to accept paper bonds as collateral due to their volatility and rising debt levels. In October 2025, interest rates in the repo market spiked suddenly from 5% to 9% overnight, a repeat of September 2019, but on a much larger scale. This dysfunction indicates that liquidity in Wall Street has become illusory. There are plenty of digital dollars, but there is a severe shortage of real physical assets backing those dollars. The gap between paper claims and actual assets in global vaults has reached a ratio of 100 to 1. This means for every $100 claimed in the system, there is only $1 of actual physical value. While the world focuses on interest rates, the BRICS group in 2025 activated BRICS Pay. This system is the true existential threat to the SWIFT system. SWIFT is a messaging system dependent on dollar clearing. If you want to send money from Dubai to Mumbai, the process must pass through a correspondent bank in New York. The new BRICS system uses distributed ledger technology, DLT, and central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, backed by a basket of commodities. In this system, settlement is instantaneous and bilateral, bypassing the dollar entirely. Data from the new bank, NDB, indicates that over 30% of non-oil trade within the group is now conducted through this parallel rail. This means draining the demand for the dollar in international trade. When the world no longer needs the dollar for its transactions, those surplus printed dollars will return to their origin, the United States. This is known as imported hyperinflation. The dollar's purchasing power is not just collapsing due to domestic errors, but because the world is returning it to its owners. We are now living in the stage of the great decoupling. Data shows that the prices of gold, silver, and essential commodities have begun moving independently of the dollar's value. In 2025, gold hit historic levels, not because gold became more valuable, but because the dollar became less so. The viewer observing these financial intelligence data now realizes the raw truth. The financial system built in 1974 structurally ended in June 2024. We are currently in a state of inertia. The system moves by old momentum, but the engine has stopped. The painful awareness lies in realizing that the financial security promised to us through paper assets, bonds, and savings accounts is security built on a protocol that no longer exists. The numbers in global exchanges are nothing but a reflection of a liquidity mirage. When the U.S. budget deficit exceeds $2 trillion annually and major powers stop buying this deficit, the inevitable result is the repricing of everything. History does not forgive those who ignore the numbers, and the data clearly shows that value is now migrating from paper promises to physical realities. The question is not when the system will collapse, but how you will reposition yourself in a world where the dollar is no longer the law.